So he decides to target a couple of law firms, including Paul Weiss, who hired that one guy who wanted to prosecute Trump when he worked for Alvin Bragg. It was like a mission of his. And Trump was like, you know what? It's a Democrat law firm. They tried to target me, or they at least rewarded somebody who tried to target me. And there's going to be all sorts of punishments to this law firm. Like, I don't think the federal government wants to be in business with them, which is his prerogative. And it took about 2 minutes for them to completely cave on everything Trump wanted. They went in there with a bouquet of roses and then some. You know, he only wanted roses, but they brought chocolates and diamonds and were on the knee begging him to let up. So Trump he's having success in these tactics, Ben, but I wonder what you make of the overall strategy and the successes and the not losses so far, but the thwarting that we're seeing judicially.
I mean, I think that the thwarting judicially isn't going to matter until we get to the Supreme Court level. So you're seeing all the Democrats complain. It's a constitutional crisis. No, it's not a constitutional crisis until you get to the point where the Supreme Court issues an order and then the executive branch just ignores the Supreme Court order. Like maybe if they said that you're not allowed to unilaterally relieve student loan debt, and then, you know, the administration just went ahead and tried to do it anyway, which happened like 2 years ago. But I think that the real question here for the Supreme Court was, and will be, what restrictions are they going to put on district court judges and the district court judge's ability to issue these nationwide temporary restraining orders on the basis of, I'm a judge in Texas, and now the entire country is now going to be governed by the thing that I say about a nationwide order from the White House. The fact that the Supreme Court turned that down a few weeks ago was a huge mistake, in my opinion. And Justice Roberts kind of signing into chat to rip on President Trump for ripping on district court judges. Justice Roberts, I'm one of the few people on the right who objected to Justice Roberts back in 2005 when he was nominated by George W. Bush. I didn't think he was going to be a good pick, and that was one of my predictions. I've made many predictions in my career that have been bad. That one was actually quite good. I think Justice Roberts has been a bit of a disaster as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and I think that his kind of notion that he restores the legitimacy of the court by yelling at President Trump is really stupid. If he wants to restore the legitimacy of the court, then the court needs to draw very clear lines as to what district court judges can and cannot do. And that is a thing that they absolutely have not done. I mean, they're leaving it up to these district court judges to do everything from mandate that the military allow trans members in to turning flights around in the middle of the air over international waters. And can they do that? Can they not? We don't know the answer. And so this idea that Trump is sort of redefining what the judiciary can and cannot do, that's not true. The low-level judges are redefining their own jurisdiction, and then the Supreme Court hasn't weighed in yet. So I think that is a narrative battle that Trump is not losing, and I think certainly forcing Democrats to defend Tren de Agua members being in the United States, these Venezuelan gang members, that's a narrative win. If you're the person on the side of the gang members, that's a pretty obvious fail. And Democrats keep being forced into the 20% position in every 80-20 fight. So for sure there. When it comes to the private sector and pressure that he's putting on particular places. So Columbia University is in violation of the Civil Rights Act. I mean, the thing that the Trump administration is saying to Columbia is you have a set of standards that apply to black students, gay students, every other minority student, and it applies to Jews too under the Civil Rights Act. You may not like the Civil Rights Act. You may think that it's in overreach. I've actually made that case myself in the past. But if those laws apply, if these anti-discrimination laws apply, they apply across the board. And that means you can't just allow gigantic harassment conferences against Jews in the middle of your campus where Jews are being barred from getting to class or anything like that, or you lose your federal money. And Columbia, of course, caves to that, as Columbia should. That, I think, again, is going to be popular with the American people and is well within the boundaries of the law. What he's doing with Paul Weiss, I mean, Paul Weiss, they're not donating services specifically. I guess what they pledged to donate something like $40 million in pro bono hours to I think White House governmental affairs. So it's not to Trump personally. It's the White House Governmental Affairs Office or something like that. I think people, number one, need to understand that $40 million of billable hours at Paul Weiss, that's like two partners for 3 days. The amount of money that these partners charge for pro bono is like insane. And they don't charge it, but that's what they rack up. And they're charging $3,000-$4,000 an hour in many of these cases. And so you're not talking about, endless amounts of hours here. It's a good kind of win for President Trump on a narrative level. And the outsized, oh my God, how could he be leveraging people? I think the thing that President Trump is doing that no other Republican in my lifetime has done is he's making the left play by their own rules. The left does this kind of stuff all the time. And I'm old enough to remember when Barack Obama called in the heads of every major car company in America in 2009 and basically said that I'm the only thing, he actually said, I'm the person standing between you and the pitchforks. And then he leveraged concessions out of them. This sort of thing happens all the time, but only from Democrats. And what President Trump is doing, and this is why I think people are freaking out, is he's saying, you built this system. You gave all these powers to the executive branch. And now I'm going to use all the powers that you built against the thing that you want. And now you're all freaking out. Okay, well, here's what we could do. If you don't like any of this, why don't we make a deal where we minimize the powers of the executive branch via the Constitution or via the
Same thing on the DOJ. And
Yes.
think of all the DOJ investigations they sicked on various police departments and fire departments across this nation saying, you don't have enough black people. You don't have enough brown people. We're going to investigate you. You handled this one case in a way that we didn't like, and therefore you're going to have to run every decision by the Department of Justice for the next 10 years or longer. There wasn't a peep out of these leftists now complaining about that. That was fine. But if it's the DOJ or some other federal government looking at Maine saying, you know what? We may see a Title IX violation here, or we may pull your funding from the Department of Agriculture because you're so out of line when it comes to the funding that we're giving you, and you're using it to let boys play in girls' sports. Now it's a constitutional crisis. Now we have an autocrat running the government.
Well, what makes Trump historic is that for my entire lifetime, the basic notion from conservatives is that the growth of government was a one-way ratchet. That all the powers that were accruing in the executive branch were just going to continue to accrue, but only to the benefit of the left. And then a right winger might get in at a certain point, might get a George W. Bush, and he would kind of just go slower, right? The ratchet would continue to move in the left wing direction, but slower. Trump is coming in and he's saying, listen, you gave me all these powers and you meant these powers for Joe Biden or for Barack Obama. But guess what? I'm the guy who's here and I'm going to use every bit of power that you gave me. And I'm going to push as hard as I possibly can. And again, he's not saying he's not going to listen to the judiciary. He's never said that, actually. A lot of people attribute that to him, but he's never actually said it. And people are caterwauling. And so the proper answer to all of this should be, okay, well, if you don't like what the president is now capable of doing, maybe you shouldn't have built that machine in the first place where you centralized all power in an administrative bureaucracy. But instead, the complaint is that Donald Trump is a tyrant. The thing they should be objecting to is the power itself. The thing they're objecting to is his use of the power, but they'd be perfectly happy if it were Kamala Harris using that exact same power in ways that they like.
That's exactly right. It's amazing to see them, flout an executive order on Title IX. They were only too happy to see Joe Biden's executive orders around Title IX and his rule changes when it came to Title IX. They loved that. Do it right now. And without anybody speaking up for girls' sports. But now that Trump has said, you know what, I disagree with that. That was poorly handled. And by the way, Biden's executive order and his changes to Title IX had already been ruled invalid. So the Title IX, as it was originally written, stands. And so when Trump came in there, he just clarified it by saying, look, to be clear, Title IX does not allow boys to play in girls' sports. But the governor of Maine decided she will overrule Title IX. She's going to disregard what it says by statute and what Trump says it says. And so he's cracking down on her. And so, yeah, she's going to lose her money at her public universities, which is what's happening. And she will bend on K through 12. And she will apologize. She will. Because just like Columbia, she wants her money more than she wants to maintain the integrity of her word. She had her girl boss moment with Trump in the White House. She got all of her newspaper covers and magazine covers. And now it's going to go down the toilet. Tariff wars, stubborn inflation. No wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. This is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, just text MK to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long is it going to take to get out of it? And at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.